Computer-generated chess problem 2750 by Chesthetica. Black has a queen, bishop and pawn against white's pair of rooks, bishop and pawn and knight. So white is ahead in material, but the knight on a5 is about to be captured and maybe white should do something about that. How about rook to d5 check? Now that rook was also under attack by the bishop on b6 in case you didn't notice, but this gives check to the black king and simultaneously X-ray defends the knight on a5. It looks like a good move, doesn't it? Okay, black just plays bishop to c5, intervening, so the knight is still being threatened. And maybe white will add pressure with rook on the f file to f5. Now the bishop is being threatened, but black has a queen, and queens can be dangerous. Queen to a1 check, king to e2, queen captures pawn check, black wins a little bit of material, bishop to d2, intervening. Intervening pieces is a typically good way of preventing further checks and perpetual checks. Queen to a3, lending support to the bishop. Now white might go for the exchange, rook captures bishop check, queen captures rook, rook captures queen, king captures rook, and white can probably go on to win this, but it will take quite a bit of moves, maybe even close to 50 moves. So if there were time controls, this probably would not be such a good idea. What else can white do here? Maybe just keep the pressure, rook on the f file to e5, while lending some support to the king, at least on that file. King to b6, rook to d7, king to b5, rook to c7, coming at the bishop from another angle. Now at this point, maybe king moves back to b6, but then rook to b7 mates. So what white has done here is basically put black in an awkward position such that the bishop on c5 can no longer be defended. The king can't capture the knight on a5 because it is now defended by the bishop on d2. So either the king or queen has to move away from the defense of the bishop, it looks like. Maybe queen to g3, rook on the c file captures bishop, check, king to a4, rook to e4 check, king to a3, rook to c3 check, forking the king and queen, queen captures rook, bishop captures queen, and this game will be over in a few moves. So, is that what white should do? And as you might have suspected, no, because it's not the best way to proceed. In chess, you try to find the best move in every position, isn't it? Let me show you what the best move in this position really is. So as you can see from the analysis, white is winning in general, but there is only one way to force a checkmate. Now it's not clear in this position, especially with the queen sitting there on c3, that a forced mate in 3 is possible, but it actually is, and by the least suspected piece, no less, the solitary pawn with its special double move to a4, check. Now first, if king to c5, bishop to e7 mate. The knight guards the c6 flight square and the bishop on b6 blocks its own king. So the king captures the knight, which it has to do. And here, rook to f5 check. If queen to c5, now that the queen's out of the way, bishop to d2 mates. The queen is pinned and it cannot go back to c3. If bishop to c5, bishop to d8 mates. With the bishop out of the way, no longer sitting on b6, the bishop on d8 can deliver mate. The bishop cannot intervene back on b6 because it is pinned against its king. So you might say that this chess problem utilizes the pin theme or features it to some extent. Yet in this position, why doesn't a rook to d5 also work? Well, if black makes the mistake of bishop to c5, bishop to d8 mates as before on the third move. But black could play queen to c5. And now, notice how the bishop on g5 cannot travel to d2 because the rook on f4 is in the way. So the win from the original position is actually very precise. First, the pawn needs to make its special double move, and after the king captures the knight, the correct rook needs to deliver check on the 5th rank. And here, black has a choice of either the queen or bishop intervening. If the queen intervenes, the bishop mates on d2, and if the bishop intervenes, the bishop mates on d8. A computer composed this, by the way, entirely on its own. I hope you enjoyed. Until the next one.
Chesthetica's Book of Chess Constructs, Volumes 1 through 5. Available on Amazon.